Coronation Street's Dylan Wilson is drawn into a clash with Brody Michaelis next week after witnessing his nemesis threatening Betsy Swain. Will they manage to settle their differences, or is the confrontation destined to spiral out of control? Over in Weatherfield, Dylan stumbles upon a heated confrontation where Brody furiously confronts Betsy for reporting him to the authorities. Seething with rage, Brody advances toward Betsy in a threatening manner, but Dylan quickly intervenes, seizing his volatile rival to prevent any further aggression. The animosity is still very much alive. The moment Dylan notices Brody harassing Betsy, he instinctively steps in, a Coronation Street insider reveals. It's a brave decision, but also one that puts him in a risky situation. Brody may not share Mick's DNA, but he certainly shares his temper. What happens next remains uncertain, but we can only hope the situation doesn't spiral beyond control. Before the tension unfolds, Sean Tully takes the initiative to warn Brody's mother, Lou, that Dylan is about to leave the STC, and he's hoping the boys will steer clear of conflict. When Dylan is finally released, Sean suggests celebrating with a meal at the bistro. However, Dylan chooses a quiet bite at the café instead, where he unexpectedly crosses paths with Brody. As soon as Brody walks in, Sean becomes visibly protective, but Dylan insists it's Brody who should be on edge. Will Dylan follow through on his bold claims, or is he merely trying to assert dominance? Dylan follows Brody into the alleyway, and as any Corrie fan knows, those ginnels are no place for sworn enemies, adds our source. If the confrontation escalates, it could have serious consequences, especially now that both are carrying criminal records. Let's just hope Dylan doesn't make a reckless choice that could cost him his freedom once more. Later that week, Sean tells Dylan that he's spoken to his college and they're open to giving him another chance at enrollment. But the news barely registers with Dylan, who brushes off his father's attempts to help him rejoin the education system. After his face-off with Brody, is Dylan straying further from the right path? And if so, what kind of mess could he be heading toward? Coronation Street continues Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. on ITV1 and is also available to stream on ITVX. Coronation Street's Carl Webster ignites scandal as he makes a bold move on Abby in explosive kiss twist. Tensions soar on the cobbles next week as Carl Webster crosses a serious line by leaning in for a kiss with none other than his sister-in-law, Abby. After weeks of lingering glances and emotional confusion, Carl decides he's had enough of pretending and is ready to act on what he believes is a mutual but unspoken attraction. The drama begins to unfold at the garage, where Carl finds himself in the middle of an unexpected situation. Tracy McDonald, determined to make her ex-husband Steve squirm, decides to turn on the charm and flirts with Carl in full view. Her shameless attempt to provoke jealousy doesn't go unnoticed, but it's not Steve who reacts. Instead, it's Abby who finds herself filled with jealousy, despite having no reason, at least publicly, to care. Abby, who's been through her fair share of heartache, finds herself struggling to suppress her feelings. The flirtation between Carl and Tracy stings more than she's willing to admit, and when Carl receives a text from none other than known conwoman Fiona asking to meet up for a secretive business deal, Abby's emotions spiral even further. She mistakenly assumes Fiona is his new romantic interest, triggering a wave of possessiveness she doesn't quite understand. Abby really doesn't have any right to feel jealous, a Corrie source explains. She's married to Kevin, after all. But their marriage has been strained, not only due to Kevin's cancer diagnosis, but also because of Abby's ongoing battle with her mental health. The emotional closeness that once defined their relationship has dimmed, leaving a vulnerable gap that someone like Carl could easily exploit. As suspicions swirl, Fiona phones the garage directly. Carl answers, and during the call, he confidently refers to himself as the boss, something that perks up Tracy's interest. She starts to wonder if there's more to Carl than meets the eye. Keen to find out, Tracy leans into their budding flirtation, and Carl doesn't exactly resist. However, Abby's concern for Tracy leads her to issue a strong warning. She advises Tracy to be careful. branding Carl a manipulative ladies' man with a history of leaving chaos in his wake. But her unsolicited advice doesn't sit well with Carl. When he hears about Abby's interference, Carl confronts her head-on in a charged, emotionally intense scene. Furious and defensive, he calls her out, not just for undermining him, but for what he suspects are deeper feelings lurking beneath her judgment. He basically says out loud what they've both been dancing around for weeks, our insider discloses. The chemistry between them isn't just subtle glances anymore, it's crackling. Every conversation is loaded with unspoken meaning, and the air is practically electric whenever they're near each other. So when Carl finally accuses Abby of having feelings for him, it doesn't just catch her off guard, it cuts straight to the heart of what she's been trying to suppress. Abby, stunned by the accusation, reacts defensively. Her voice sharpens as she flatly denies any romantic interest, trying to shut the door on the moment before it spirals further. She warns Carl in no uncertain terms, if he continues this line of conversation, she'll go straight to Kevin and tell him everything. Every look, every insinuation, every dangerous suggestion. It's a clear threat, and she means it. But Carl, never one to back down from a challenge, stands his ground. The more Abby resists, the more convinced he becomes that she's hiding from the truth and from herself. Carl isn't scared of consequences, the source adds. That's part of what makes him dangerous. He's reckless, charming, and completely unpredictable. When Abby threatens to blow the whistle, he doesn't retreat. He leans in harder. He tells her they've both been lying to themselves and it's time to face reality. Carl's voice lowers, filled with intensity. He says he's tired of pretending, tired of tiptoeing around something that's clearly real. He steps closer, challenging Abby to deny the attraction with her eyes when her words won't suffice. The moment is charged, a mixture of emotional vulnerability, forbidden desire, and years of repressed emotion. And then, with barely a pause, he takes the risk. He leans in, eyes locked on hers, inviting the kiss that could ruin everything. In true Carl fashion, he decides to gamble big, the source continues. He knows it's dangerous. She's his brother's wife, for crying out loud, but he also thinks the risk is worth it. He's convinced that Abby feels something too, even if she won't admit it. The scene is fraught with emotion. Carl's face inches from hers, the air thick with anticipation. Abby's caught between desire and loyalty, between following her heart and doing the right thing. It's a classic Corrie dilemma. Does she give in to her feelings, or does she walk away before everything crumbles? On a street where betrayals and secrets are often just a whisper away from being exposed, the stakes have never been higher. If Abby kisses Carl, she risks blowing up her marriage, hurting Kevin, and confirming everyone's worst fears about her stability. But if she walks away, will she always wonder what might have been? Coronation Street continues Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. on ITV1 and is available to stream on ITVX. Don't miss what could be the moment that changes everything for Abby and the Websters forever.